Howdy y'all, my name is Rational Outlaw, and today I have a video by a socialist. Before we go on, I'm gonna need a little help. Oh, Ferg, are you ready?
Yeah, man. Let me just take a quick sip of this socialist drinking water and we can get started.
Alright, let's get on with the video.
Hello everyone. As you would know, rightists like to point to Venezuela as a modern example of democratic socialism.
Well, maybe that's because it kind of is socialist, considering the fact, according to the Heritage Foundation, it is 27% free in their index of economic freedom.
Now, Rational Outlaw, you know what these lefties cringe-fest morons are gonna say. They're gonna say you can't go off the Heritage Institute because they're a right-wing organization. Never mind their quality research and not being able to have any points against them, they'll just discredit based on their ideology. So let's see what Dr. Trino Marquez from the University of Central Venezuela has to say. And the quote starts, "Once re-elected, the deceased commander began to openly raise the need to end capitalist production relationships, destroy trade relationships, and replace exchange value with labor value, all to replace capitalism with 21st century socialism. The core of this movement resided in reducing property to a minimum, both ownership of means of production and real estate." So they minimize all that, and they are now controlled by a central government. The shift toward socialization was twofold. On one hand, it was aimed at the nationalization of key private companies, and I'm still in the quote. On the other, it was also orientated towards the collectivization of those areas considered non-strategic by the government. Food companies, for example, can be declared strategic and end of public interest at any time, and therefore confiscated without meeting the applicable legal requirements. This is a central government controlling. The quote goes on, "These companies and large supermarket chains cannot produce or distribute their products according to their own operative plans, but according to the orders dictated unilaterally by the central government. Similarly, through foreign exchange controls, the government retains control over foreign currencies handled by companies, forcing them into a relationship of submission and absolute dependence of the executive branch of the government. The Integrated National Service of Customs and Tax Administration can also impose arbitrary and million-dollar fines on companies in the absence of independent tribunal to which to appeal." So we're not dealing with a kind of socialist government. They are controlling means of production of certain areas. If it was one area, if it was two, if it was three, it doesn't matter. A central government is distributing wealth based on bureaucracies. This is socialism.
However, what they will not tell you is that Venezuela's economy has always been dominated by the private sector. That's right, more than two-thirds of Venezuela's industry remained in private hands under Hugo Chavez. This has been noted by academic papers and right-wing and left-wing news outlets. The Venezuelan economy remains dominated by capitalists.
Even if the vast majority of businesses are owned by the private sector, that doesn't mean it isn't socialist. There are other factors that go into how socialist a country is.
You're exactly right, and those factors include a central government that controls the means of productions of certain areas, and in other areas completely contradicts the notion of individual freedom for the people living in that nation.
For example, in the whole business side, if you want to go into that, well, the businesses only have 39.7% freedom. And for labor freedom, there's only 28.5%, and monetary freedom is at 16.8%. So, not very free.
Venezuela is also one of the few countries where the private sector dominates in the area of healthcare, smashing both the Latin American average and the OECD average in out-of-pocket private expenditure. Even the pro-Chavista Telesur website acknowledges that the Venezuelan government continues to subsidize private health clinics, lamenting that old habits die hard.
Giving money to businesses is not a part of capitalism. That's not how capitalism works.
Not only that, it is the opposite of what capitalism is. It is more like socialism because when the government and a business make an unholy alliance to dominate markets and control people while violating everyone's individual liberty to buy and sell what they want, we end up having a little bit of a socialist issue.
Furthermore, only around 20 to 25% of the workforce is employed in the Venezuelan public sector, whilst the rest work in the private and informal sectors. Public sector employment in France, Britain, Norway, Sweden and Denmark is actually higher, and they are hardly socialist states.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. You are such a fucking moron.
You're so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
There isn't just like a couple factors that go into how socialist a country is. There are quite a few factors. And as I have said earlier, overall, Venezuela is ranked at 27% freedom according to Heritage Foundation Economic Freedom Index. That means they are under a lot of restrictions by their government. If you want an indication of how socialist Venezuela is, just look at the Index of Economic Freedom, and you will see that Venezuela is ranked 179th out of 180 countries, making it just above North Korea and just below Cuba, which are both communist countries.
So whilst it should be noted that the Chavez government did try to expand public healthcare and bring industries into public ownership, the private sector continued to dominate the economy. Of course, this brings a lot of problems. Since capitalists have such control of the economy, they can use their resources to destroy a left-leaning government. We saw such capitalist destabilization in Chile in the 1970s, where there was massive hoarding, sabotage, and bosses' strikes that were designed to destroy the Allende government. When the Allende government was overthrown, the shops were full of food the very next day.
Okay, this has to be cleared up. You said since capitalists own the economy. Is there a group or bureaucracy calling the shots in capitalism? Of course not, because that contradicts capitalism. Capitalism is thousands or millions of individuals that make individual choices on what they want to buy or sell. Are you saying that when the millions of individuals making millions of individual choices every day were overthrown, you finally had food in the shops? No, because that would be absurd. You are saying when the corrupt government was overthrown, the capitalist market took over and there was food in the shops the next day. It's a contradiction. Before I thought you were just confused, but Outlaw is right. You are a fucking idiot. You are essentially like, see, capitalism is bad because the government, but capitalism fixed it afterwards, conflating capitalism and government when it's convenient and separating them when it's not. You're a dishonest asshole.
What they did, and that's why I think one has to get the story very straight, they created destabilization. There was economic turmoil in Chile. There was a trucking strike, which was very important for Chile because we're a very long country. We're like a spaghetti, we're so long. And our highways are basic, and trucking is basic. And trucks stopped because they were paid not to work. And they received more pay not working than working. Yeah, let's remember that the day after the coup, all the supermarkets were full of food.
One of the reasons for this was that Allende did not destroy the economic power of the capitalists in Chile. Indeed, one of the reasons why Fidel Castro was so successful is that he knew what needed to be done to establish socialism. Smash the economic power of the capitalists and their US allies. Understandably, Chavez and Maduro followed the same path as Allende, because they were restrained by a false democracy. The reason why I say that democracy is false because the will of the majority can be restrained by the capitalist structures. For example, say if the majority voted for a socialist party in order to bring the means of production into public ownership. In a so-called capitalist democracy, the capitalists would be able to take the government to court and win, ignoring the will of the people. What kind of democracy is that?
It's not. That's corporatism. That's government getting involved in capitalism. When businesses are capable of heavily influencing the government, that's no longer capitalism. That's going towards corporatism. That's why it's important to have a free market where government has little to no control over businesses. And as I have said earlier, businesses in Venezuela do not have that much freedom. They have so many restrictions by their government. So no, they aren't really a capitalist country. They are a socialist country.
Don't get me wrong, I really hope that Maduro triumphs over the Venezuelan reactionaries, but you would be totally wrong to call modern Venezuela socialist. More than 2/3 of the economy is privately owned. Private expenditure, out-of-pocket expenses on healthcare in Venezuela, accounts for 55.1% of total expenditure on health. The OECD average is 27.5%. And the vast majority of Venezuelan workers still work for the private sector.
Man, that guy is such a fucking moron. Well, that's it for today. Thanks, Ferg, for helping me with this video. If you haven't subscribed to Ferg, go check him out. He has some good content. And if you aren't subscribed to me, subscribe. And I'll see y'all later.